Today, in this video, we want to replicate from AWS West in this account, demo 171, over to this account in AWS US East 1. And there's documentation on this, and it's in all editions, Snowflake Replication. And this is also open source. This demo is open source for the FinServ AM database to build this. And we're going to build this. It already built with 2 billion rows, so you can build that here, and the script will also be here. Look in the YouTube description below for these links. So the benefits of Snowflake Replication is it's serverless and it's near zero maintenance, so no need to worry about distributors, hardware, and primary keys like you would on other systems. It's easy to set up via GUI or script. So on time now we're going to show you the GUI option as well, but let's just get into the script. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to use zero copy clone to create a sandbox for replication. So create database if not exists, named FinServ AM replication, and that's going to be a clone of this database right here. So that only took 6 seconds. So as you can see, we can now have a sandbox called FinServ AM replication that looks virtually like the same FinServ AM database that we had before. We're going to grant ownership on this database to a role called FinServ AM admin. Okay, so now we're going to use the account admin role and show the global accounts. This will allow you to find what account that you want to replicate within your organization. So within this organization, my accounts are named 171. So as you can see, I want to replicate from this demo 171 over to this one in US East 1. And I'm going to use the role org admins for a one-time setup. And I already set this up, but it's idempotent, so I can run it again. And essentially what this does is enables my account for replication. So this is the publisher that I'm enabling and also the subscriber. Okay, and I want to enable the replication for this database. So I want to enable replication per account. So I enabled replication to this account. All right, and so now we'll be able to see it. What is replicated database? There you are. So it is ready for replication, and it's showing that it is a primary database. All right, so now this is ready to go on the publisher. So now we come over to the subscriber, and what we want to do is use this script, which is again in the GitHub description, YouTube description below. So as you can see, I do not have a FinServ AM replication database. So what I want to do, promote myself to account admin and use this command, create database replication as a replica of this one coming from my demo 171 account. Okay, and I'm going to run this refresh, which is going to take about 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So as that's going on, I'm going to show you a little more functionality of what's going on. So this is running, and we can see progress on another tab as well in replication history. So if we wanted to run this command, which I'll just copy and paste over here, so we can see what is going on. So in the background, as you can see, it's this is in Los Angeles time, because AWS West was the original account. But as you can see, it did this uploading inventory metadata, and now it's uploading data. So let's hit refresh over here, and as you can see, these objects are now coming in. So the information schema and these public tables are about to be filled out. So if you're curious as to what replication is doing, this is where you would check. And as you can see the total copy bytes, the bytes that are copied over, and various other details. So you can continue to refresh this if you wanted to get a real-time update as to what's going on. We can refresh this throughout. Now, while we're waiting for that 3 minutes and 45 seconds, I also want to show you that we could also automate this via the GUI. So I'm going to show you what the GUI would look like. So now you don't need the GUI to do this, but I actually used it just to get started with, and I'll show you what that process would look like as we're waiting. So if we go to database, for any database that you want to replicate, so let's say I want to replicate this database, I would just hit the enable replication, and I should probably have a separate video on that, but that's how you would do it. It would allow you to enable replication. You know what, I will just play around. I'll grab this a random database, let's call it let's say this feature DB, and I'll just show you what that would look like. So if I hit enable replication, then you have the option to allow failover if you're on business critical edition. I am on business critical, so that would also do that, but I'm just leave it as the default. Where would you replicate it to? Again, my account start with 171, so if I wanted to replicate to this this instance, that's how. And of course I could show SQL, and that's actually how I got the SQL to enable replication. So again, this is how you can enable it on your side via the GUI. And also on the subscriber, it is also like that. Before we look at the GUI option, let's refresh as well as we're waiting for this. So now it's more data is come over, and now it looks like it's downloading the data. So if we refresh this now, there you go. So now it's created the objects, right? As you can see, all the schemas are there, but the tables are still empty. So now the tables are coming in as well. Okay, so on the subscriber, to enable replication, you could also just go to, after it is enabled on the publisher, you would just hit, you would just select it and then hit create secondary database. Since these are already set up, you might not get the same experience, but as you can see, we just hit create the second database, and as you can see, you would just follow the GUI to show you what that process would look like. And we scripted all of these out into these scripts. Okay, so as we're waiting for this to load, look at that, it looks like it is done. Let me hit refresh to show you what that would look like, and also open the history to see how long that took. Okay, even less time, so 3 minutes and 26 seconds. So as you can see, this replication database came in, and we could look at the progress, at the same progress as we did before. In case we're refreshing, as you can see, all of our data is updated. It shows you the total bytes that were copied over. I should probably do the math on that at some point, but as you can see, a lot of data was copied over in under 4 minutes. Okay, so let's actually query this database just with some basic queries, and I also want to refresh it with the task. Okay. Refresh the database. So I'm going to show you what it's like to refresh this database as well. So now the database is granted to the role account, but I want to grant everything and all of the schemas, tables, and views to this lower role. All right. So I'm going to grant that going forward. Okay, and of course you could always use various show commands to show what is being replicated. And let's check out the replica. So let's start querying this replicated data that just came in. Just going to set my context. Okay. And the queries that I could run on the publisher perform just as well. So as you can see, 1.45 seconds to get like our data dictionary. If we wanted to query this view of 2 billion rows, no problem. As you can see, this is a view against 2 billion rows, and the view definition. So one good trick is when you're replicating databases or designing databases in your views, do not put the database name, especially if it's unnecessary, because as you can see here, now when I replicate the data, it is not hard coding the previous name, and it just uses whatever database name you're using here. And of course, our trade table, 66 milliseconds. Again, you see the power of Snowflake's caching, which is why that took so fast, but even then it would be very fast access. That's milliseconds of data access. Okay, so as you can see, querying this data is very fast even on the subscriber. So now I want to say, okay, let's say you added more data. So what that would look like, and I should probably have a demo for that at some point, is when you want to get more data, you just hit the refresh button. And this is going to take about approximately 10 seconds. And if you wanted to see that data coming in, you would just run this same database refresh progress to get the updates. Okay, now, so what did we just do? We showed setting up your initial replication. Now, obviously, you don't want to, manually have to replicate everything, but you could set a task, Snowflake TASK, to automate that. So let's show you what that would look like. And we're going to use the new feature of serverless tasks. Okay, so we're going to promote ourselves to account admin. And here, we're going to execute manage tasks on account. Basically, just one-time setup to allow the sysadmin to also create tasks that are serverless. All right. So let's do that. We're going to create a database called utility database if it doesn't exist, just to put some things outside of what is replicated. Always a good best practice. Okay, so now we're going to create this serverless task to refresh the FinServ replication database using a cron job. We like cron to schedule, and it'll just basically serverless task, replicate on every hour, Monday to Friday. Notice there is no warehouse option here. If you wanted to add the warehouse parameter, you could do that. But the benefit of this is, that task that took just 10 seconds. Remember when we refreshed the database here and it took about 10 seconds? You're only paying for 10 seconds on serverless instead of, a 1 minute minimum if you had a warehouse. And so Snowflake Serverless Task is, I think, really a game changer to allow you to just offload that. The Snowflake Serverless Task is smart enough to just run on its own to refresh your data. Or for many of your tasks, I would just use a serverless task. Okay, so the tasks are suspended by default. Actually, if we monitor the tasks, you see that the task is suspended. So all tasks start suspended by default. So we're just going to resume that task, which turns it on basically. And so we can monitor the task. As you can see, the state is started. So now if we wanted to see when the next task execution is, because I set mine to run from 9 a.m. Monday to Friday, it's basically in seconds. That's how many seconds is away is the next time. Actually, I think that's the scheduled time in Pacific time. All right, so let's do a recap of what we've done. We have replicated from this publisher over to this subscriber. Okay, and that took just about 4 minutes to set up that replication of these 2 billion rows of data and all of the objects there. And as you could see, we saw how fast the performance was. We also use serverless tasks to automate this so that it will refresh every hour on the hour. And of course, you could also make this, every 5 minutes or whatever interval you wanted to refresh replication, depending on your service level agreement as well. Okay, so that's all done. And should you want to, clean up these objects, these scripts that we just created, no problem. And obviously, you don't have to do this when you're ready to go. We're going to drop the task that we created, and we're going to drop the database on the subscriber. So it's important to drop the database on the subscriber first. Otherwise, you'd get an error when you're trying to drop the database on a publisher, which makes sense, right? Because you don't want to do that. So it kind of protects you. Snowflake Replication protects you. So now we can actually drop the database on the publisher as well. And we basically reset our demo to what it was beforehand. So a quick recap of what we've done. We have replicated 25 billion rows from the publisher and all the tables and views to the subscriber. And the benefits of Snowflake replication: it's serverless replication, near zero maintenance, no need to worry about distributors, hardware, and primary keys, and it's easy setup via a GUI or script. Thank you very much.